악의 세기가 신들에게 드리워지기 전 하나의 전설이 그들과 어깨를 견주고자 나타났다. 그리고 결국 크레이토스는 전쟁의 신으로 등극하지만 그는 가족에 대한 악몽의
저기 있네요. 나한텐 잘 보이는데. 희망의 불꽃이 암흑 속의 우리를 해방시킬 거예요.
판도라, 안 돼!
내가 여기 온 이유잖아요. 그러라고 데려온 거 아니었어요?
내가 다른 방법을 찾겠다.
아니요, 크레이토스. 다른 방법은 없어요. 난 가야 돼요.
안 된다, 아가야!
나는 아기가 아니에요. 아프잖아요. 크레이토스, 도와줘요.
그엘라디소 제우스! 넌 왜 이런 애한테 집착하느냐? 이젠 넌더리가 나는구나, 아들아. 그 애를 풀어줘, 제우스! 이 아이는 물건에 불과하다. 헤파이스토스의 피와 살로 만든 창조물이야. 넌 착각 속에 살고 있다, 스파르탄. 판도라를 찾아서 네가 죽인 가족에 대한 속죄를 하려는 것 때문에 올림푸스가 어떤 혼란을 겪었는지 아나? 네가 저지른 짓을 한번 둘러보아라. 내가 부스러운 것 말고는 보이지 않소. 너를 불쌍히 여긴 건 나의 최대의 실수였다, 클레이토스. 이것을 불쌍하게 여긴 것이 너의 최대의 실수라는 걸 알게 될 거다. 이 일은 이 아이와 상관이 없어. 많이 상관이다. 너도 아주 많이. 그애 내려놔. 네가 원한다면. 오만한 멍청.
너의 블레이드
판도라! 판도라, 안 돼! 얘를 잡아, 크레이토스! 물속으로 들어가게 해서는 안 돼!
이게 바로 내가 해야 될 일이에요. 알고 있잖아요. 부탁해요.
그만!
크레이토스, 이게 유일한 방법이란 말이에요.
그의 말 듣지 마, 크레이토스. 한 번만이라도 실패를 면해. 네 가족을 저버린 것처럼 아이를 놓으면 안 돼. 판도라! 신을 죽일 수 있는 힘이군. 비었나? 그렇게나 찾아다녔는데, 그렇게나 희생을 치렀는데 결국 엄청난 실패로 끝나버렸구나. 대혼돈. 내가 널 죽이고 나면 할 일이 많겠어. 한비시오 아버지, 이제 끝낼 때가 됐소. 그래, 내 아들은 내가 됐구나.
올림푸스의 굴림은 이제 끝이다.
가야! 당신 살아있나?
내 세상이 너 때문에 피를 흘리고 있다. 난 너의 목숨을 바라지 않았다, 스파르탄. 하지만 선택의 여지를 주지 않는구나.
너의 부하는 너를 저버렸군, 가야. 다른 녀석을 골랐으면 좋았을 텐데.
그만해라. 너희 부자는 함께 죽음을 맞겠군.
오만한 멍청. 널 부숴버리겠다. 이젠 네가 지긋지긋하고 해야 돼. 장주에서 마지막 내가 정하고 이 안에 들어오게 해. 어둠만이 네 앞길을 비추는다, 크레이토스.
엄마, 밖에 무슨 일이에요? 사람들이랑 불이 있어요.
가까이 와라, 갈리오페.
엄마, 너무 무서워요. 불을 잡으러 오는 건가요?
네 아빠가 우리를 보호해줄 거야.
마을을 태워버려! 낙속까지 태워버려라! 내 아내, 내 아이. 어떻게 스파르타에 있었단 말이다.
길을 안내할게요. 서둘러요. 도울게요, 크레이토스. 크레이토스, 희망의 불꽃이 암흑 속의 우리를 해방시킬 거예요.
당신이 변한 건 빛 때문이에요. 그러니까 두려움을 잠재워보도록 해요. 빛은 진실을 알려줘. 용서를 할 수 있는 힘들이 거기서 나는 거지. 용서를 받으려면 자신을 용서하는 힘을 찾아내야만 해요.
이쪽이요.
안돼, 크레이토스, 그만!
아테나, 안 돼!
크레이토스, 두려움 때문에 제우스는 아버지 크로노스를 죽이려 했어. 대전쟁을 일으킨 그 두려움인지, 그 두려움 때문에 널 죽이려고 하는 거야. 자신의 아들. 제우스는 두려움으로 널 어둠 속에 가두려 했어. 네 안에 있는 악마와 맞서서 평온을 찾아.
이쪽이요, 크레이토스.
올림푸스의 신들은 나를 버렸다. 지금 남은 혹시 그날이 기억나느냐, 스파르탄? 아이를 해치게 두진 않을 거야.
판도라라 부르는 그 천한 년하고 잘했다. 너는 네 운명을 절대로 바꿀 수 없다. 난 너에게 모든 걸 바쳤어.
제발 멈춰라, 스파르탄. 네가 원하는 건 다 얻었어.
길을 안내할게요.
죽어라 크레이토스. 널 창조했으니 마지막도 내가 정하마.
서둘러요.
왜 죽지 않는 것이냐? 죽어라. 용맨 떨어봐라.
크레이토스. 이쪽이요, 크레이토스. 빨리요, 크레이토스. 크레이토스, 제발 날 풀어주세요.
그만 듣지 마, 크레이토스. 한 번만이라도 실패를 미안해. 이 가족을 저버린 것처럼 아이를 놓으면 안 돼.
괜찮아요, 크레이토스. 크레이토스, 이게 유일한 방법이란 말이에요. 그들의 두려움이 커갈수록 내 두려움은 희망이 됐어요.
신을 죽일 수 있는 힘이
희망은 우리를 강하게 해줘요. 희망 때문에 존재하니까. 모든 걸 잃어도 희망으로 싸우는 거죠.
아주 잘했다, 크레이토스. 올림푸스의 고리에서 벗어나서 깨끗이 정화된 인류가 드디어 나의 메시지를 들을 준비가 된 것 같구나.
주위를 둘러봐, 아테라. 모든 것이 몰락했어. 메시지가 무슨 소용이지?
가고 싶은 것. 근데 그 전에 상자 안에 있었던 힘은 내게 돌려줘야 한다.
상자는 비어 있었어.
그럴 리 없다. 네 눈을 보면 알아. 넌 내 힘으로 제우스를 죽였으니까. 넌 힘을 갖고 있어. 이해가 안 되는 거야? 제우스가 모든 악을 모은 다음 상자에 넣었어. 상자가 열리면 벌어질 일이 걱정됐어. 그래서 나는 세상에서 가장 강력한 무기를 비워내서 그 상자 안에 넣었다.
말했잖아. 상자는 비어 있었어. 판도라는 헛된 죽음을 맞은 거야. 복수를 위한 내 열망 때문에 죽은 거지.
오해를 하고 있구나. 넌 내 힘으로 제우스를 죽였어. 내가 직접 봤다. 그게 아니면 그래. 네가 상자를 열었어. 세상에 아주 힘들게 불었어. 악의 전형에서 그들은 변한 거지. 제우스마저도 악의 힘에 굴복했다. 그래서 너의 죽음에 집착하게 된 거야. 널 죽이려고 애쓴 거야. 두려움에 사로잡힌 거지. 내가 상자 안에 넣어둔 마지막 힘이 세상에 나오지 못한 줄 알았는데 여지껏 아레스를 죽인 네 힘이 악의 힘에서 비롯된 줄로만 알았어. 근데 아니었고. 네가 상자에서 꺼낸 힘은 내 것이다. 그것으로부터 너는 제우스가 파괴할 수 없는 힘을 얻었어. 두려움을 극복해낼 수 있는 힘이야. 크레이토스 네 몸에 자리 잡고 있었던 거다. 희망이지. 네 마음속에 있을 것. 네가 가진 죄의식과 실패의 테두리 안에 제우스를 죽였을 때 어떤 계기로 인해 다시 깨어났을 거야. 무엇이든 크레이토스.
희망은 우리를 강하게 해줘요. 희망 때문에 존재하니까. 모든 걸 잃어도 희망으로 싸우는 거죠.
그게 뭐였지, 크레이토스?
내가 기억하는 건 내가 잃은 것들 뿐.
그래서 그 힘의 진정한 주인은 나다. 오직 나만이 그 힘의 진정한 가치와 용도를 알아. 너는 반드시 옳은 선택을 할 거라고 믿는다.
믿지 마라.
그건 나한테 준 빚이야, 크레이토스.
빚 따위는 없어.
너를 신으로 만들어줬어. 올림푸스의 분노에서 너를 지켜주고 제우스에게 복수할 기회를 준 것도 나야.
끝났어, 아테나.
감히 나를 죽이겠다고? 또다시?
나의 복수는 여기가 끝이야.
네가 어떻게... 어리석! 무슨 짓을 한 거야! 안 돼! 부활시키는구나, 스파르타.
First of all, welcome to our 4th annual Halloween costume. Beer drinking and brat eating and fun. It's going to be great.
I'm very happy with the way God of War 2 came out. Provided we hit our mark, I was pretty confident that our sales would be better than God of War 1, but I was rather skeptical that our reviews would be. God of War 2, I think, at the end of the day, probably equaled, if not slightly exceeded the first, which I was not expecting, and it was quite satisfying.
I can't believe I'm fucking doing this. I deserve this one, then. This is the final chapter, so I think big goals for me are to finish this off in such a grand, epic fashion, something that is truly befitting of what we've done, what we've set up in 1 and 2.
All right, this is for revenge story.
God of War 2 ended up being everything we ever hoped it would be, and probably a bit more. It got reviewed very well. I honestly feel like it was probably about as good a game as is likely to be made on the PS2, and I'm very proud that we managed to do that.
Oh, one big family here at SCEA.
Once you start something, you gotta finish it. So that's the way I look at things. God of War 3 is gonna be the conclusion to the story. My hope is to make the best effects I can on the last one.
When I think of God of War, I think of the best action platformer out there right now. I think other games and other companies look at us and go, how are they doing it? How can we make it like them? And that's rad, because I've totally been at the company where we looked at that game and went, man, how do we do that, you know?
My main hope is that it escapes the destiny of sequels as well as God of War 2 has escaped the destiny of sequels.
I'm going to be satisfied if we tie it all up and we can kind of close the book.
We're past the stage of figuring out what we want to do. We're now in the early phases of sorting out the how we're going to do it.
Next Friday will be my last day at Sony Santa Monica. The bomb was dropped. It was somber and everyone was quiet and no one said anything, and perhaps there was a tad bit of shock. It's killed me because I really want to say something, but it's just nothing you can say is going to come across as anything but you're an asshole.
When I heard that Corey was going to leave was kind of annoyance more than anything. It's, you know, it takes a long time to make a successful team as much as a successful product. It's always a pain when a key person in that team decides to move on.
First emotion we felt was just shock. Didn't see it coming, didn't expect it. It's like dropping a bomb.
Well, it was disbelief, obviously. I thought he would be the last one to leave.
Incredibly bummed out, like very, very disappointed.
You know, you're never really prepared for something like that, you know. They don't warn you very well either. They just kind of spring it on you.
It was kind of a bit of a shock. I never expected that Corey would leave the project, so. But once the initial shock died down, I couldn't help but being a little bit happy for him, so because he was getting to try new things.
It kind of puts us in a little bit of turmoil for now, but I think we'll work it out.
I'm glad he has the balls to stick to whatever it is that he wants, but I'm also a little pissed that he's leaving us in the lurch, just kind of like holding the bag.
I mean, I know I want to be here. If he needs to be someplace else, that's what he's got to do. And I think it's better that it happened at this stage in the project than a year from now, obviously.
It obviously is a very difficult choice and a difficult time and not a very happy choice to be making. But, you know, on the horizon, the doors are opening.
Of course, it's hard to imagine someone stepping into Corey's shoes. He's amazing.
Many people wondered whether we could do God of War 2 without David Jaffe, who did God of War 1, and I think we succeeded at that. I think we can succeed at creating a third version without Cory Barlog.
I think it's kind of neat, actually. A different director for each chapter.
When I became director, there was a very warm response from the team. I got a lot of tons of support, and I mean, so far everybody's been super cool. I look back on how Corey handled things and how Dave handled things, and I draw inspiration. I think the most important thing that I got from both of those guys is the fact that they were themselves.
I'm super excited about this. You know, this team kicks ass, you know, and it's said a lot, but this type of situation, the kind of garbage that we've been going through in the last month, as far as I'm concerned, this team's second to none.
But Stig is fucking amazing.
Stig's a pretty good leader, I think mostly because you're probably afraid of him when you first meet him.
The entire team really respects him. Everybody communicates well with him, and he's not unfair with any of his decision makings.
From my perspective, he is much more easier to work with. He is much more structured and engineer friendly.
One of my strengths is to try to lead by example. Hopefully that filters through to the rest of the team and they're able to approach their tasks with total excellence.
All those leads from the last game, those key people, they're in place. And that's really where the personality of the studio comes from. That's where the drive of the team comes from, wanting to critique every element and make everything that's in the game the best that it can be. It really is driven from the leads and from the culture of this studio, and that has not changed even through the turnover.
So working on the PS3 is very, very challenging. It's a lot of new technology and a lot of new techniques are required to make a game on the PS3, which means that we have to learn some completely new techniques for writing our game code. It's also a completely new graphics processor, so we have to learn about those graphics techniques and work out how we expose them to the artist in order to make the best possible art and give the game the look that the art team is interested in. We have a similar set of problems working with the designers. People's expectations for games on the PS3 are much higher. They want to see, you know, more enemies and more complicated effects and, you know, more ragdoll physics on the characters and, you know, realistic looking reactions when you hit people. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of challenge working on the PS3.
God of War 2, the team was able to throw so many things into the game and get things up and running and finding out, is that fun or not? The hard transition for God of War 3 is getting all that to work again because we have so much new technology that has to be built.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody has to relearn their own personal expectations and their limitations and how they're projecting their schedules and their tasks and things like that. Everybody is counting on everybody else to kind of make accurate predictions on what they can do. It's tough right now because everything's new. It's just so much more involved. That's very worrisome. When are we going to get to the point where we can say something's going to take 4 weeks to do and it's really going to take 4 weeks to do? It's understandable that nobody understands that right now.
PlayStation 3, we're able to push a lot more polygons, a lot more texture resolution and detail, so things are hyper realistic. I mean, they're so realistic now that we can actually see pores on skin and hair and eyebrows and nose hairs. You can see everything. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
Every character now is like taking 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
At least 6 weeks.
Yeah, to make one. It's not like before, it's like 5 days we can make one.
For me, it's not knowing kind of where the limits are. You can make stuff look so super realistic now, and that takes a lot of time. Whereas before, we really had defined limits.
Yeah, it's exponentially more complex. And the other big thing is this is going to be our first PlayStation 3 game, and we're expected to be able to beat games that some studios have released 2, 3, even 4. Gamers are expecting us to have better technology, better art, better visuals, better gameplay. Across the board, they expect it to be better. And that's pretty intimidating in itself.
We're going crazy with the detail. When it's done, I think it's going to look incredible.
You're going to see Kratos do a lot more subtle movement, more facial animation, things that the human eye just, you know, usually takes for granted, but now we can include all those things.
The things that we can actually accomplish are starting to now really become things that are only limited by our imagination.
With the new hardware and the new system, we're able to kind of start pushing the player experience and creating like a much more kind of cohesive world. And like, you know, the Titan before used to be in a cinematic and now you're actually like running on the damn thing. So it's like, you know, whoa, you know, we're getting there.
Titans we've never done anything like that.
They're pretty crazy.
It's insane. The fact that you're going to be able to run around this like moving character and it's basically a moving level, it's pretty insane.
From a a programming perspective, they're a big challenge. We designed all of our animation systems and everything to deal with a roughly 2 meter high character
Exactly.
where, if his little finger twitches slightly, there's not too much of a big deal.
Exactly.
But when your character's like, 2 kilometers high, then a little twitch in the finger suddenly becomes like a really big deal. The very first moment those were mentioned, I was like, oh, Jesus, this is going to be a big problem.
Yes.
But hey, I mean, it wouldn't be God of War if we didn't try something we didn't think we could do when we started.
Because I'm very proud of this game and you guys, I've invited a storyteller friend of mine to come in our walkabout. So Stan Lee is going to join us today and check out your work.
This is such a cool time to be just walking around the studio and looking at things as they're coming online. Every month, we do a walkabout, and it's largely for the team to kind of, review each other's work and, and really compliment each other.
It's a big studio now, there's like 80 people here, and really it's impossible to keep on top of everything that any given part of the group has been working on. It's an opportunity for everyone to see what cool stuff has been going on in the studio. It's a good way of making everyone realize that they're part of a big machine at this point.
Plus, everything looks better after you had a couple beers. So it helps to make your stuff look better.
Everyone's out to get Kratos. These are all Olympus, the gods, and they're all bad. All the gods are bad, except this guy who's tormented.
Yes.
He's great.
His line is, in the end, there will only be chaos.
And then the next game you do is called Chaos. That's a great sequel.
There you go. Zeus's brother Poseidon.
Terrific drawings.
Hera.
Yeah. I love to write dialogue. Maybe we could try something new. A video game with lots of dialogue. I'm sure it would sell like a bomb. And I love the way this hand is there. Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah, and then when he moves the hand, we'll make that to kind of get destroyed a little bit and get all kinds of dust flying off of it.
This is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Cool.
That is beautiful.
Thing Corey did before he left.
Okay, so long, fellas.
We're just giving each other props here. Yeah. Cheers.
There's no such thing as a bad walkabout because, beer at work.
And also, Stanley rules! Woo, woo!
Just crawled up there. It's Stanley.
Stanley!
I'm fine with it as long as we make it seem like it's in-game as much as possible.
I'm still learning every single day, and I imagine that process won't ever end. And there's so many things that you can learn from every individual on this team.
Stig is kind of man of the team, very easygoing, very casual, but he's also extremely intelligent, very thoughtful. I think the thing that's been successful for him is that people just want to help him out. They just want to make a good game.
Stig just keeps pushing along. He's got 2 brand new twins at home, and
yeah, it just keeps on going.
He's got this other baby, this big baby on his back right now, so he's doing great.
Since last Halloween, we made a lot of progress. We got the story of the game done. We've got the whole design direction completed. 3 months from now, we're going to be doing our press event.
Everyone gets to go home early!
The first couple times when Stig addressed the team, it was so clear how nervous he was. He would kind of stumble on his words, and he'd literally, turn red, like a stoplight. It was really kind of endearing. But then to watch him sort of evolve, and honestly, I think I was a little bit concerned that, our game director is our public face. And we actually gave him, some media training. And Stig actually asking people, he says, honestly, I don't want to think about all this stuff. I just want to be myself. Is that okay? And they said, you know what? Absolutely.
That looks good.
Oh, wow. That's how tall Kratos is. He's probably closer to the size of this guy.
Will is our stand-in Kratos when Kratos isn't here.
I'm about as close as you can get.
We picked the venue and the location for the spot, and we brought all the media here. We have something like 60 people here from the media. I can't wait for them to see the actual gameplay. These guys are going to be thrilled.
Love Kratos. Kratos is hot. Be nice to see if he ends up a god or destroying Olympus.
do love the violence as well. You know, the women are very beautiful in the game as well. I can't wait to see what new characters they've brought to us, what new enemies, and I'm really excited.
I also want the sizzle, you know? Maybe we can just focus it in a little bit more. We can play with that a little bit. Yeah.
The development team has worked so hard on this project, so it's really fun to see when all their hard work comes to fruition.
I'm going to get through the first couple slides up here, and then I'm going to start to walk around. Nobody has seen the gameplay outside of our studio, so this is going to be the first time. Want to get this over with. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited about this. I think we've got something really cool to show. I'm looking forward to seeing people's reactions. Can we play it? This is our first big kind of press thing. There's definitely some nerves with that. Anxious. I'm definitely anxious. The best thing that could happen today is people think it's awesome. You know, it totally kicks ass. The worst thing that could happen today is that people just flat out think it sucks. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know with these media people. What is the vision for God of War 3? We want to define this generation with this game. We're going to take a close look at him. I'll talk about some of the features that we're using on him. Here he is. We've got blended normal maps on him right now, so you can see the realistic muscle flexing. I would imagine that we've got one of the most advanced systems for that in the industry right now. The battle's in full swing. The god Helios is in battle with a massive Titan. And Kratos is going to launch into battle and start doing some damage on the grunts here. Now, Todd can easily just grab one of the grunts by pressing circle, and if he continues pressing circle, he can beat the crap out of him. But if he presses triangle, then he can rip them apart. If he presses X, then he can throw them. And one more move, square uses it as a battering ram, and then he can take it, mash circle, smash his head against the wall. And all these moves are interchangeable. Meet our latest AI, the Chimera. Part snake, part goat, part lion. Todd has just unleashed the cestus on him, and you can see it's a brawling weapon. Now, the way the Chimera works is it's a 3-stage enemy. First, you fight the snake stage, and then it changes its stance, and you fight the lion stage. We're really having fun with gore on this game. Entering the Cyclops. Every action that the Cyclops makes is a direct reaction from the pain that Kratos is inflicting on him. Well, that's our newest upgrade, the Helios head. It can be used to reveal secrets. Todd has now found the door of Eos. Another thing the Helios head can be used as is a lantern in darkened areas. This is our newest form of travel in God of War, Icarus Ascension. Todd now has full flight controls over Kratos and basically dodging gameplay. That's it.
Oh my God, fantastic. It was great.
It was phenomenal. I mean, like, I thought that I had a concept of what it would be like, but this pretty much blew everything completely out of the water.
We're putting a lot into this game. I said I think this game needs to be a defining game for this generation, and I truly believe it will be. I can't comment on what the future holds for the series because, you know, I'm focused on God of War 3 right now, but this is God of War is, this is it. This is the end of the story. We got a lot of work to do, so there's no time for relaxing, that's for sure. E3 is obviously a big thing. We got to get this playable to the public, what we just showed on the demo here. We're in pretty good shape for that, but we got to get the game done. We still got a lot of work left to do.
Right now for E3, pretty nervous about it. Nervous, I mean, think nervous isn't a bad thing. You know, you should be nervous. Your nerves should be on edge or else you're not going to get the thing done right.
It's kind of ironic that most people would have been happy with the reaction for the press demo, and we were kind of like We could have done better. We've undertaken to basically change the rendering path between February and E3 to make it look much prettier and much more next-gen. We have this amazing capacity to never know when to stop. Hopefully it'll all come together. I think it will. It's looking very nice. We definitely know how to pressure ourselves.
This team sets the bar really high. We could settle for a lot less and probably be a lot closer to being done, but with this group, they're never satisfied. Yeah. We never do things the easy way.
Personally, I'm worried, but then I think it's good that I'm worried because that forces me to actually get this shit done.
Good. There's definitely pressure, self-created pressure, and then pressure from other departments just to get everything done. We're all just trying to do our best.
I think the most pressure we get is from ourselves. Every team is always looking at the other team's work and commenting and critiquing. So we're really pushing each other the most, I think.
It's a lot of back and forth.
The following week, it's absolutely nothing moves because we're going to need to take every freaking second to make sure it's stable and we are at frame rate. So, Steve, with that, you want to just...
The dead soldiers on the ground aren't in the poses?
Nope, and they don't have blood streaks and stuff in here.
Tyler's doing blood streaks.
Alright, so we need a book over here then. The inactive mode would look like kind of like it does right now when the book's shut. The active mode, the book would open up and would have like a glow around it.
We have to open and close the book.
Yeah, there's a bug for it.
Wish I would have known that when we built it, because we didn't build it to open and close.
Wait, you need the book to open and close?
Yeah. There's no limit to good ideas, but there is a limit to how many of those good ideas that you can actually implement. And even if you make decisions and you make progress on things, it doesn't mean that you can get all those things done. We need to be able to tell people this thing is active now.
Can we remove it for E3?
Are you serious?
No, I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of other shit here to get done besides getting a book to have in an active states.
Let's say we don't do the open and close for E3. It would just have a glow effect and a light that comes with it, and that's it.
Do we just put a sparkle on it then?
Absolutely have any compromise for the schedule right now. I have to trust production, and I have to trust the fact that they're telling me that we can't get things done. So I feel like there's little things that have been compromised. I don't know that the player's going to necessarily miss them, but I sure am. It's part of making games. You don't always get what you want. This seems like harder than the last time I played it.
We have to keep in mind that somebody from the street is going to be playing with those harpies. And I don't know, the way it looks right now, on 3 tries, people will throw down the controller.
The stuff we just went through, pretty rough. It's a little frustrating from the respect that it's been kind of at this state for a long time now. Kind of wondering when it's going to get fixed. The struggle or the challenge.
If it gets fixed this week, we're screwed.
This is sprint week, meaning we're making a big push this week to get a lot of work done and make some headway going into E3.
As far as crunch goes, we're not going to call it crunch anymore. We're going to call it a sprint, and then everything will be fine. So as long as we do that.
Change the name, it'll all be fine.
Tonight's the first night of
crunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
We don't like the euphemism sprint.
Fuck. I hate crunch. It sucks.
Right now, I'm creating a new build, and hopefully that will enable the rest of the studio to then continue working on the awesome content that they're creating for E3. They're definitely waiting on me. Definitely.
As far as my end, I feel I'm okay, but then at the same time, I kind of feel like I'm waiting on technology a little bit to kind of come online.
We just have a ton of bugs to fix. We're getting new technology right now, and the lighting's kind of broken, fog's kind of broken, so we're just trying to kind of survive, fix all our bugs, and get all of our tech in place so we can get this thing done.
You're sprinting now. Yeah.
Tonight's the first time the team has worked together as one, and there's a certain kind of level of excitement that goes into it and dread because we're still working, but it's a fun group to be with, and we're trying to get stuff done.
You know, we can only do so much, right? And we'll just try to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible, and that's it. Hopefully we end up with something pretty cool, though.
This is the biggest E3 we'll ever have.
Everybody wants to still see if Santa Monica still has it.
Last 2 weeks have been very, very intense. I actually got here this morning a half hour before the shrine actually opened to deliver live code for what we're playing this morning. I didn't have that code until yesterday afternoon.
The Sony press conference is their big moment, 2 hours to like show all the new stuff they have. And it's going to be broadcast on live TV and web. And we're going to end the show with God of War 3. Anytime that you go first or last, if you open the show or close the show, it's an honor.
I guess we're happy that Sony seems so committed to our game. It's nice that all of our hard work over the last 7 years, really, because that's how long we've been working on the God of War series in total, is really getting the reception that it seems to be getting.
We're real excited that we're closing the press conference. It's a great opportunity. It's a great way to end. We're going to be live on stage playing real live code, so nerves are definitely high.
Like a lot of jitters.
Stig's going to be talking and I'm going to be playing on stage, so a little stressful. Got to take the edge off a little bit. Headlining scares the shit out of me. I've never done something this big, standing in front of 2,000 people or however many it is.
This is one of the most eagerly anticipated games of this generation. I'd like to invite Stig Asmussen to the stage to show you the first few minutes of the jaw-dropping God of War 3.
We at Sony Santa Monica Studios are excited to be able to present this live demo of God of War 3. God of War 3 is the final chapter in our fantasy trilogy, based on the dark side of Greek mythology. Now our design director, Todd Pappy, will take point on the controls, and we'll get into our demo. I'm really anxious. I'm really excited. This is a really important moment for the team. It's important for the game. I hope that we make the impression that we always strive for. One line. Amazing, fucking awesome. People really seem to dig it. This went well. I don't see how it could have gone any better.
Well, I'm kind of glad that E3 is back. It's pretty exciting. It's been a couple of years since there was a really decent-sized E3. It's always exciting to have your game here.
This is what we work for. E3 is like Christmas.
We've got 12 kiosks set up with God of War. We had a great time last night setting it up. It was actually, we got there, the Sony booth was relatively quiet. All the games were up and running, but there weren't a lot of people playing anything. We started loading in the God of War, and people started lining up behind me to play it. I had somebody tell me today, one of the producers of another product told me when we got in there and loaded our code, all work stopped at the Sony booth so they could come play our product. Hugely flattering, big kudos to the team. Got chills just having that whole experience. It was awesome.
It was excellent. It was, disgusting and exciting all at the same time.
I waited an hour to play that game. When you finally get to decapitate Halo's head, that was like amazing. Didn't expect to see that.
It's pretty brutal. I mean, way more brutal than like the first two. Every new game, they bump it up a little bit, so it's definitely good stuff. I waited in line 2 hours to play. What can I say? It's God of War with unforgiving amounts of violence, great gameplay, kind of thing that, just spend all day playing, not call your girlfriend, whatever, who cares, right?
I'm super pumped to see it. Makes me so jazzed. So this is Christmas.
This is Christmas.
But it lasts 3 days.
We can't believe it's back, It's like awesome. Really good.
I'm so fucking happy that E3's back. I mean, it means so much for the industry.
Seeing people's faces when they play, we just ship it out to the store, so the team really doesn't see, people's reactions and just even the oohs and the ahs at the press event. It makes it all worth it.
Just seeing the people's faces. I mean, that's why I make the thing. I want to take people to that next level.
I think this is what excites the team the most when they get to see people's reactions. We work our asses off before this to just get the demo to be as polished as possible, and
E3 was a huge milestone for us. A lot of publicity, a lot of great feedback and great exposure.
E3 was awesome. I have to say it went very well. Seeing all the fans and watching everybody play totally put us in a different mindset coming back from that. You really get locked up and don't really see people's reactions working on something for so long, and going and seeing people line up for your game, that's more than you could ever want, you know? It just kind of invigorates the whole team into coming back and working on something and wanting to put your heart into it and make it even better.
I think we did a good job with it at E3. And that shouldn't be our high point. That should be like our midpoint.
Alpha is when the whole game from start to finish needs to be in one bag. It can have placeholder assets, but you can fly basically through the whole game or walk through the whole game, and everything's represented in approximately the way that it will ship with.
Yeah, so ideally by alpha we shouldn't go, oh hey, we need that extra bad guy, or hey, we're gonna add a new boss.
Which we've done on other games, so.
But ideally on God of War 3, you know, alpha will be, okay, all of our pieces are in.
And then after alpha becomes beta, and beta is basically art lock.
I want to make sure that when I'm playing the game, I've got a smile on my face. You know, I've played God of War for the last 6 or 7 years of my life now. As long as I'm got a smile on my face, I think there's a good chance that that's going to translate over to the fans.
If you kind of take a look at this here, you can see this character that's the size of the Sears Tower, roughly. It's about 1,500 feet tall. It's a different kind of boss battle. Kronos is more than Gaia, is more fully alive, and you're more fighting on a character that's moving around. So this has been very tedious and challenging and time-consuming to put this together, but I think at the end it'll definitely be worth it, and people will feel like they're playing something they never played before. Kronos will actually thrust his hands forward and do a scrape and leave his fingers there, so that you can actually attack his fingernails. We'll have a breakable on the fingernail, and then the fingernail will bring up like a circle prompt. You'll grab onto that and in the CS move, and then basically do a struggle and then rip it out, and you know, it'll be kind of a gory, cool, memorable moment. We actually want to make this awesome. We want to make this gameplay super exciting. It's going to be everything people expect from what the Titan fight should be.
What are the big tech issues, Chris, that you need support on?
It's the only big tech issue we need support on at the moment is the issue with the collision.
The more static you can get him, the more precision you will get in your CS move.
The problem is that since it's a skin collision, the skin itself is not just a non-deformable object that you can rely on to not have change from one frame to the other. That's the biggest issue we can have.
What we're doing hasn't really ever been done before, and so a lot of what we're running into are issues with trying to make it as exciting as possible, but working within the technical constraints that we have and in the time frame that we have.
I would say that the rewrite of skinned collision is turning into a very unrealistic proposition to get it finished before alpha.
Time is the biggest fun killer usually, is as far as developing. It's where you come up with the most exciting scenarios, but do we have the time to put it together?
Fabrice and I will need to take a look at what is going on and what's fixable and what is not, and what we will have to design around.
With Kronos, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and when you see it all together in the finished product with all the polish, I think it's going to be one of the most memorable experiences in gaming history. That's how I feel about it. I know it's going to be like that.
The murderer of Gaia enters my tomb. Kronos! I know it was you who killed her, Spartan. Who else could?
About a month back, maybe 6 weeks back after Alpha, we were looking at the end of the game and we felt like there was a lot of fighting and it didn't really tie into the story. We had a couple brainstorming meetings and we came up with this idea that it would be really cool to go inside Kratos' head. Because that's where the struggle is really taking place.
The story's really never done until the game ships. And we're always tweaking it and modifying it. But I really like working on the story.
Kratos is going to have this emotional struggle inside of his head. And, you know, really the object of this game is he has to realize that he has hope inside of him, the power of hope. And that's what he originally got when he opened up Pandora's box. He didn't get the evil things, he got the good things. And I think it's going to be a really, really fitting end to the trilogy. Keep in mind, you know, we're very close to beta here, and this is the big stretch. And we really, really, really got to be zipping things up. Let's do it. That's all I got. That's all I got.
This is the third Halloween. I think for many it's probably a big relief. We're less than 3 months away from being done. It's been 2+ years. It's been an incredible journey. We've overcome so many pitfalls along the way with change of personnel, project redesigns. Despite all that, we've managed to continue to elevate and continue to push ourselves and continue to make the best products we as a team can do. And I think God of War 3 is living up to that.
To complete the third one is pretty amazing. We always tried to hit the highest mark we possibly could, and I think we've done it once again with this one. So we're going to have to wait and see what the fans think, but I have really, really high hopes.
Completing a trilogy is something I never did in my life, you know, and completing something like this is very special, you know, something that means a lot to me.
Sentimental moment.
This is truly one of the best teams I've ever worked with. I mean, across the board. I've worked with teams that were really strong on the art side, or really strong on design, or really strong on technology, but this is the only team I worked with that fires on all cylinders.
The team faced a lot of challenges. The interesting thing is that this team has always faced challenges, and it sounds kind of cliche, but they're really good at facing challenges.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
You know,
I mean, we've discussed a lot. Obviously, we've gone through a lot of different changes, and the team always, I mean, you can't put it any better, but they always rise to the challenge.
We really sat down and focused what we wanted to, make good, and whatever wasn't working, we just kind of threw out the door and said, this is what we want, and that's what everybody focused on and made good.
Fans are going to be blown away. We're still getting surprised as far as how good things look.
The game's awesome. It's going to be good.
I've been working with Kratos almost 7 years. I've learned a lot. He's taught me a lot. We've had some good times, but it's time for him to go to bed for a little while.
We're over here at Leo's desk, and we just, you want to say hi, Leo?
Hi, everybody.
Tell us about the pink ball. Is that something that you decided to put in, that pink spiky ball, or was just...
Well, yeah, I just decided to kind of create pink yo-yo.
One cool thing about this character also is that he's actually kind of like a throwback character. We're bringing him back from God of War 1. He actually wasn't in God of War 2, because we definitely want to keep reminding the player that this is a trilogy. They're not supposed to be seen as separate games. So what about animating Kratos? What are some of the things that are kind of challenging?
He has a specific poses that describing him. He has a kind of like a language of poses. You have to use those poses to invent some new animation. So.
We're fortunate to have Leo here because he's joining us for God of War 3. He actually is one of the newest members of the team, so he's doing a great job.
One of the factors of animation is that you're kind of trying to make it invisible. The more successful we are, the less you really notice the animation.
The stuff we've got going on with our boss fights is going to look really impressive. It's another kind of key development for this game, I think.
We're working a lot with the designers, way more closely, and creating new things with them.
There's a certain type of feeling that in animation we have to achieve. And the most important part, of course, is Kratos and how he moves. Kratos is very direct. We don't try to make him too fancy. If you notice, a lot of times when he's having conversations, he's just kind of standing there waiting for the moment where he needs to say something.
Everything that Kratos does happens for a reason. I don't know if many people even notice these things, but Kratos never moves backwards. He's an aggressive character. He moves with a purpose at all times.
We actually have wooden swords laying around all the time. We definitely get up and try to act it out. It's definitely always hazardous to walk around the animation area. You gotta watch out.
What are the challenges of animating something that big?
Planning out where
everything needs to be. Like, nothing happens on accident. You need to know where everything is. I did not know that it was going to be this big. I just had an idea, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go with it, which is kind of a bad idea. I learned my lesson. At the same time, I'm glad that it's the size that it is. The players will be happy that it's in there. I think they'll get an adrenaline rush just from seeing the sequence.
Kratos, your death will not be a gentle one. Ah! Ah! My eyes!
Camera design is the layout of cameras for the player's point of view in the game. So, and what we do is we basically control that player's point of view throughout the experience.
Cameras start with the design sheet being delivered to us by the level designer. That's the most basic form. We put in all the cameras for the design sheet. Once the cameras are in and it's been play tested and it proves that this is a good concept and we go forward with it, it gets sent off to the art department.
That's where they'll take it and they'll spend, months sometimes making these areas look really epic, and then they'll get finished with it and then they'll hand it back to us. And a lot of times it's a little bit different, so we'll have to adjust some cameras.
So once the art comes back in and someone's spent a year building that level, they can be very touchy if they spent a year styling in this formation and my camera just goes right past it. We try to do our best to show off everyone's hard work.
And a lot of times there's a lot of cool things that you want to see in there that you can't see, so we'll go back and try to include those pieces in the shot that you get when you're playing the game. And from there, we play test it. This time externally, we get some people from the outside come in, take a look at what we're doing, making sure that that's great. After we get their feedback, implement their feedback, we're ready to go to the next area.
Anything we can do to make the cameras feel cinematic.
And they serve as a guide for the player, too, to lead them in the direction that they need to go as well.
Yeah, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
It's sort of like people who play the God of War franchise, after a while, they get a feel that if the camera's looking this way, that's important.
In the very end, it always comes back down to what would the player want to see.
Most games in the action genre, the player gets most of the control over the camera. The player has no control over the camera in the God of War series.
Fans have been clamoring, and I hear you. We need to look around. We want to look around.
It should be understood that there's really no way we could make the levels look this good if the player could look anywhere they wanted.
What we're trying to do, though, at this time around, is give you key points where you're in the adventure and you can control the camera. So maybe you're in a crazy puzzle room and you need to be able to kind of look around. So in some of these areas, we can give the player control, but in a limited fashion. I hope the fans will appreciate that we're trying to implement their feedback.
What new feature do you like the best from the camera system?
The rail-driven cameras. I think that's been my favorite new feature as far as the technology that we have with the camera.
What's a rail-driven camera for someone who wouldn't know?
A camera that's animated along a course that we have even more control over what the camera is showing.
The rail is essentially what we kind of live and die by. Let's say this is your camera rail, this line here, and let's say this is the thing that's driving the camera. And imagine this is a section of hallway or something like that Kratos is moving along. We can take this camera here and we can key it. So we key to two different positions. So Kratos is here, the camera is here. When he starts to move along, as Kratos moves along, it will drive the animation of the camera to animate to that position. So as you're cruising along, you'll kind of see it, this kind of view where it's low and looking up at him, and then as he moves along, it will kind of track him and follow him. That's like one of our cool new things that we have that we think we can add a lot of kind of cinematic views to the game.
This is a perfect example of combat cameras right here. Here we're in a room, there's nobody to fight yet, and you can see we're taking a lower angle here. And as we come here, we'll trigger the spawning of a bunch of guys, and you can see the camera is going to lift up so we can show more of the action. And the framing, we're going to fit Kratos more towards the middle so you can see what's happening in front of him and see what's happening behind him. Try to give you the best view as possible for all the different combat actions that you're going to be taking.
So this is an untextured view of the Olympus base. This is what the artist put together first before he assigned any lighting or textures to it. You can see these green boxes. These are the camera zones. They determine when Kratos is within one of those boxes, and once he is, the specific camera tied to that box gets activated. This is what a level would look like after we've added our cameras. You've got it panning around, following Kratos. If you were to take that off, it would basically look something like this. Very basic, not much excitement. You can't really tell where the player's supposed to be going. Adding the cameras is part of what definitely helps the level design flow. Here's a good example of some lead space. We're trying to tell the player this is where you want to go. Jump to this block over here. Once he's done the proper move, we zoom in, get him prepped for this nice shot of him making the leap, and then we transfer to another camera that shows him where you want to jump next, which is from here all the way down to there. So, and then he makes that jump. This would be an example of one of the vista shots we try to do in the game, which is you've got some really amazing piece of scenery in the background that the artists spent a lot of time building. So we want to get that into frame.
Character modeling is taking the art from visual development and turning it into a 3D model, painting it, giving it life, and then handing it off to our character riggers who send it off to animation. So we actually create the object itself.
It's in general just become, I guess you'd say, more sophisticated, but it's more of a traditional media now. It's kind of, if you know how to sculpt traditionally, then you're going to transfer right in. Traditional skills are playing a more important role, which is great.
Do you feel that you channeling the great masters of art history to help you achieve a new level?
Raphael, you know, they speak to me.
Really? One of the big things that I was looking forward to doing is nasty stuff like this, because before this I had been doing more technical stuff, more like realistic humans. Doing realism is fun to a certain extent. It's more fun to do something that's slightly realistic. There's more artistic license as far as where you can go with it. With realism, there is no artistic license.
Creature design is kind of the most exciting thing. Like Peter was saying, artistic freedom, and just you can do kind of whatever you want and you push things. I mean, that's what the great masters did, so it's just exciting to work on that kind of thing.
Here's my workstation. I have my Cintiq, which is what we use to paint and model. This is the monitor that we can actually draw on, paint on the screen, sculpt in ZBrush, which is very helpful and amazing. And then on the left of me, I have my standard monitor where I usually keep my reference. We're able to give metal a kind of specularity that we couldn't before. Scratches, blood, a real shine and realism that we couldn't deliver on the last project. We are working with a lot more polygons and a lot more textures on our project this time, per object.
Here's Hermes, the concept art that I got from Andy Park, who did a great job. You can see the boots are in there and what color they're supposed to be, what material. We're still working on the cloth, making sure that's all rigged nicely. And right now, I'm fighting with the hair, trying to make the hair look good. So hopefully by the time you see this in the game, it'll be looking nice and transparent. So here we are starting him out in ZBrush and adding a lot of the little detail. Say if you wanted his skin to bulge around these straps, it would be really easy to go ahead and just add musculature in here.
Today you may defeat me, but in the end, Kratos, you'll betray only yourself.
This is the centaur in our game. Andy Park did the concept. They always do like a colored version first, like this, to kind of nail the feel of the character and like what he's all about. And then they'll give us these turnarounds like this one. We have, you know, the horses have these like chest muscles that kind of flow up into the horse neck, you know, this way. And we have abdomen muscles and these obliques that kind of flow in. And where our hips sit, you know, is kind of where their shoulder blades sit. So typically most people draw centaurs. You know, I'm not the first one to make one of these things, so, you know, this has been thought about before. But typically, you know, our hips, like where the hips would sit on a human, they put where the shoulder blades would be. It feels kind of like it would work, you know.
Kratos was created from scratch simply because we weren't sure where we wanted to go in the third game, if we were going to change him at all, or if we were going to maintain the PS2 silhouette and essentially the same exact character. We felt like it might be an opportunity to really make some changes to him, considering the level of fidelity and sophistication in what we could create now on the PS3. We started out way out there. 2.5 years later, we decided that he looks like the PS2 model. So we're back to where we started, but it's really coming together, and it's right for the game. Kratos is a very heroic, very stylized silhouette, a very thin waist, very broad shoulders. He has kind of a swimmer's build on steroids. He's 8.5 feet tall, and he has a head the size of a 4-foot tall person. His waist is probably thinner than all of our wives. He's a trippy looking guy, but he reads really well in the game. Basically what I'm working on now is we've got an upper body and a mesh that the art director as well as the director really like. So now it's a matter of creating a blend map, which is new technology for Sony Santa Monica, in that we can do expressions. Basically, I'm just creating the rage, sculpting him looking angry, and we'll be able to blend this new facial expression into the current model. So we can go from here to here. The satisfaction comes in seeing him in the game saying, wow, that's him. Only look, you can see his veins and you can see him breathing. And it looks better than the cinematics. That's kind of that's the satisfaction.